A dream is a wish your heart made. When you see a star, a Nash is a star of carmade. It outshines all others by far.
Now come with Nash into a new motoring aid. See Nash.
Hello again. This is Patrick Foster with another installment in the Nash Heritage Preservation Project. One thing I've wanted to do since we began this project long ago is I wanted to talk with Nash dealers, and they're a rare bunch, and but a hardy bunch and an interesting bunch. So I wanted to track some down and talk to them about their experiences as being Nash dealers. And I was very fortunate here at a Nash meet to run into somebody from one of the best Nash dealers that was out there, Boch Rambler. So we are going to talk with Richard Boch here about his experiences being a Nash dealer. So without further ado, tell us first and foremost, I heard you started, your father founded the dealership and you started there at a young age.
My father started the dealership in 1945, right after the war. And I was 16 years old then, and prior to that he had run a repair shop at home. And we started with a one-car garage and he expanded it to 2 cars. And he applied for the Nash franchise in 45 with the option that we would build a new building out on Route 1 in Norwood, Mass.
Okay.
Which was about 12 miles south of Boston. So the first couple of years before we had the building done, we were selling cars out of this 2-car garage, and of course we only got like 50 cars the first year. And we had a big long waiting list, and we used to have to go down to the freight yard and unload the cars ourselves on the freight cars that we pour in a car. And that was always an exciting day when we got a shipment of cars.
Yeah, no, there were long waiting lines because they hadn't built any cars during the war, and I understand the cars at those days weren't discounted. They were pretty much sold for whatever the retail price was.
In a lot of cases, they were sold for more than the retail price. We didn't do that, but that was a common practice. Because my father had a list of customers that had done business with him for 20 years, and he wouldn't do anything like that.
Now, do you remember the first cars after the war? We talk about the blackout models before World War II when they started painting over the chrome. But after the war, I've heard that they shipped cars without bumpers.
Bumperless models, right? Yeah. And we used to put wooden planks on until the bumpers came. That was quite a deal.
How did customers like that?
They were happy to get the car. They didn't really care. Yeah. That was a real problem.
Do you remember how long it was before they got their bumpers?
It was like maybe a month or 2.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't that long.
Yeah. But you got about 50 cars a year.
Right.
How does a dealership survive on 50 cars a year?
Well, at that time, the overhead was very low, so it was just me and my father.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't have a salesman. We didn't have anything really.
So your dad worked on the cars?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We both worked on it. Yeah. And in 47, my brother came into the business. And, he handled the sales part. And we gradually went from 50 cars a year to, in 1960, I think we sold over 3,000.
Wow.
We were the largest American Motors dealer in the country.
Yeah. Well, I think I told you earlier, I am a former American Motors salesman myself. I wasn't in Massachusetts, so I was next door in Connecticut. And 3,000 cars a year. We sold a lot of cars, but we never sold anywhere near that much. That's a phenomenal amount.
Well, we were at the right place at the right time. We grew on the Boston market. We weren't in Boston, so we weren't made in Boston. But one of the dealer meetings I remember was left a big impression in my mind was when Romney spoke. And he was all fired up. And he said, if you can't fire your employees with enthusiasm, fire them.
With enthusiasm. I've read that speech, yeah.
Oh, yeah? That was a great speech.
Yeah. And you saw that in where?
It was in New York.
Okay. Yeah. I think that was a 1956 introduction, 1957 introduction.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Then I know in the late 50s, when we built a new building and expanded, Roy Abernathy came out for the grand opening.
Mm-hmm.
We have pictures of that.
What was he like?
He was good. He was a down-to-earth type guy. You know?
Former football player, I think, in college. Big guy.
Yeah, he was a big guy. Had a lot of experience with packing it before he came to In 1947, Nash was running a factory school, so my father sent me out here because I was working in the service department. It was a week-long school, and they took us out to Burlington Proving Ground, which they had just bought a few months prior to that.
Wow.
And we had a chance to drive the cars around the Proving Ground and so forth.
Oh, gosh, now, I interviewed earlier a fellow who worked that year at the Proving Grounds.
Is that right?
And he was probably right around your age at the time. He wasn't a test driver, though. He was worked on that. So you drove around the track?
They had the water bath, and going through the big puddles and the cobblestones and all that type of thing. And then at the end of the school, we drove a new car home.
Uh-huh. And what did you drive home?
A 46 Ambassador.
Oh, okay. Well, that must have been a heck of a drive to get to Massachusetts.
Yeah, it was about 1,000 miles.
Yeah. And how long did it take you to do that?
A couple of days.
Yeah. Did you fold the seats down and sleep in the car?
No. It was quite an experience.
Yeah. Do you remember who the service instructor was?
See, I know.
Okay. I know up here in Kenosha back then they had the chief engineer was Floyd Kishline, and I know he would every now and then visit the schools. I didn't know if you saw that. Now,
plus they took us to the factories.
Oh, that's was the factory busy?
Well, yeah, that was, we went through the body plant in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
And we were down to Kenosha too. It was really great.
Now,
and then they showed us how they tracked, they saw that there was a problem, how they tracked it, how many warranties were being submitted on that particular problem, how they handled it, which was very interesting. If you reached a certain number, they would know they had a problem.
Now cars sold very well in 46 and 47 because there was such short supply. And according to the sales numbers, even the 48 sold pretty well.
48s did too, right?
Yeah. Now the 49s, when that came out, that was the one
that was a radical,
right?
That was a radical change from the Nash styling.
I've always wondered, what did the dealers think of it when they saw it?
Some liked it, some didn't.
Yeah. What did this dealer think?
I liked them. They were very modern. You know, the interiors were great.
Yeah.
So roomy.
Yeah.
And they had the uniscope on the wheel with all the gauges, which was a problem when you went to repair it, but it looked nice.
I've heard that, and I wondered if that was just a writer making that up.
No, they used to break a lot of speedometer cables because of the routing of the cable down through the steering housing and so forth.
Ooh, that must have been tough to replace.
But all in all, they were great cars.
Yeah. And how about the Nash 600 versus the Ambassador? I've heard some people complain it didn't have enough power.
Right. It was for the size of the body, the engine was too small.
Mm-hmm.
It was difficult to work on, especially if you had to adjust the valves because they were way down underneath the side of the engine. It was difficult to get in there. They would break off a lot of the manifold studs because they were using a small quarter-inch stud, holding a pipe onto the side of the engine. And they should have been using the biggest stud, which they finally did the following year.
Now, when you were selling cars to people, you weren't selling in the Chevy price range. You were in the upper price range. Was that ever a problem with anybody saying, "Why don't I buy a Buick?" And
right, you had to really sell the car. The car, you had to explain the features and why they should buy a Nash, and the advantages to it. Usually, that would convince them.
Yeah.
The mileage, upkeep was cheaper. It had a lot of, the heating system was fantastic, especially in New England where that was important.
Yeah.
That's a big selling feature.
I know growing up as a kid, I started driving Ramblers, and mechanics might criticize this or that. They'd always say it doesn't look like a Chevy, but every single one of them said, boy, they got the best heater on that.
Right. And a lot of people didn't know there was a filter in that heater,
Mhm.
which you could change. And periodically, that it would be, you'd access it through the engine compartment. It would slide out and replace it with a new one. Really kept the air clean and so forth.
Now, how was Nash as far as warranty reimbursements? That's always a big dealer issue.
There was no problem. No, they were great on that. They would pay every month. They would send you a check as long as you submitted everything made out correctly.
Because I've talked to GM dealers who have years of criticism that they get cheated on warranty reimbursements.
And the factory had great service reps.
Mm-hmm.
They would send out if you had a problem.
Oh, yeah? Do you remember who your service rep was?
Dan Cassidy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And we had 2 or 3, but Dan is probably the best one. And in fact, one year, in '47, we were getting a lot of road noise from the tires. I complained about it. They sent an engineer out from Goodyear
Mm-hmm.
to see what the problem was. Got a lot of road noise. And with coil springs on all 4 wheels, you always had the problem. The rear wheels had to be balanced. Like you get the vibration of who you talk to, would make a gear shift vibrate.
Wow. Oh, I never heard of that.
55 miles an hour, that's a critical point.
Well, anybody out there who's experiencing that problem, we know what the answer is. Now, balance those rear wheels.
Right.
Do you remember who your sales representative was? You must have a sales representative.
Yeah, that was Arthur Henderson.
Uh-huh.
And our car distribution manager was Stanley Robinson, who was still a friend of mine since he lives out in Washington. And he had worked for Hudson previously, and then when he merged, he became car distribution manager.
Now, that bathtub style was a big hit in '49 and '50, but I guess the fastback look started to date. But in 1950, they brought out that Nash Rambler, and that was a product that I've heard some dealers didn't like, and others.
Well, the convertible was a great seller.
Uh-huh.
And then they brought out the two-door hardtop with the station wagon.
Yeah.
We had great luck with those.
Yeah.
But they found in the early 50s, they didn't put a cross brace across for lower control arms.
Mm-hmm.
And they would get some of the stress would be spreading the arms out, so they came out with the K-brakes that you had to install underneath.
Oh, okay.
And that solved the problem, because it couldn't hold the front end of the line.
How was the car, though, for performance?
That was a peppy little car, because it had a good-sized engine, but it didn't have a lot of weight like the Statesman.
Yeah, I think basically you used the old former Statesman engine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you must have been around 20 years old when the Rambler came out. That seems to me like a sporting car for a young man.
Oh, yeah.
Did you drive one?
Yes, I did, because it was fully equipped. It had a custom steering wheel, foam rubber cushions, radio, heater, and all the accessories, directional signals, everything was standard.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a cheap little car. It was a well-equipped small car.
Oh, yeah, and you look at the pictures, they've got those nice big wheel discs
Right.
and everything. It's really a deluxe-looking car. And of course, the convertible is
Yeah.
everybody's
Of course, the
favorite.
convertible it had the cables that pulled the top up and down.
Mm-hmm.
They needed adjusting occasionally.
Oh, did they really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They'd get cocked off to one side, and it would go down, it would go up, and it would go anywhere.
Oh, okay. Now, that's another thing I didn't know. Okay. And the hardtop must have appealed to maybe a little bit older crowd, or?
Yeah, and more women, I think, wanted the hot top,
Yeah.
too.
And then that little two-door station wagon, which
Yeah.
I had one of those myself.
Yeah. It was a good little- And I think if they had done that to the Metropolitan, it would have been,
Yeah. Now, how about the Nash Healey? Speaking of sporting cars for a young man, I know if I was 21 years old in 1951, I would have grabbed that Nash Healey right away. Did your dealership get one?
Yes, we did. In fact, we had the original car from the Le Mans race on display for a month.
Wow.
We used to drive that up and down.
Carefully, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable. It had that all aluminum body.
Yeah.
That thing would fly.
Now, how did you manage to get that on display?
They were taking it around the country.
Yeah.
And some of the dealers were able to get it for a while.
Uh-huh.
And then I remember at 54, 55, we had Miss America that we took around, and she was, Nash was sponsoring her.
Now, was that Evelyn A?
No, I can't remember her name.
Colleen K. Hutchinson was, Lee Merriweather?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that would have been 1955.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. She's one of my favorite Miss Americas.
Once upon a time, when Cinderella longed to go to the ball, her fairy godmother appeared and gave her a beautiful gown. Now, what about a carriage? How fitting! The world's most beautiful, most modern car, a 1955 Nash Ambassador. Only trouble, it may be too modern for Cinderella. I know, let's make Cinderella modern. Let's turn her into Miss America.
Hello, I'm Lee Merriweather, and being Miss America makes me feel like a modern Cinderella, especially when I drive my beautiful new Nash. And no wonder. Nash for 55 has the trend-setting look that has all America talking. With new safety headlights set low in the grille, and new Ceneramic windshield, widest of any car. And of course, there's all-season air conditioning. One simple knob cools you in summer, warms you in winter. And just look, the widest front seats of any car, with a rainbow choice of rich leathers and fabrics. Enjoy wonderful airliner reclining seats that make the longest drive seem short. You can even nap the children on long trips. Why don't you drive the brilliant new Ambassador or the exciting new Statesman at your Nash dealers now?
Let him turn your old car into a Nash.
And your dealership got to drive her around?
Right, yeah, we were.
Did you meet her?
No, I didn't.
Uh-huh.
So, it was quite exciting.
What sort of, was it in a parade that she appeared in? Do you remember?
No, I think we just took her around showing her the sights of Boston. And stuff
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
And of course, she went on to appear in that TV program Barnaby Jones.
Right.
With Buddy Epson. She had quite a career.
Yeah.
Afterwards, it probably still does, but I never get a chance to turn on the TV set anymore. Now, what about the 1952 Nash? That was that car came out very late, but it was a beautiful car when it came out, the big Ambassadors.
The biggest room on the road.
Yeah.
That was a fabulous car.
Oh, yeah?
The only problem we had with that was water leaks,
Ah, okay.
because it was a new model.
Yeah.
They were,
I had forgotten that aspect of working in a dealership. When a new car comes out, that's when you get the water leaks. That's right. Yeah.
they were really unbelievable. They had a car that had been to every dealership in Boston and never could fix it.
Yeah.
But I fixed it. I tore the whole interior out.
Yeah.
It took me a week, but I finally fixed it.
I remember from my days working in dealerships that water leaks were the worst thing to try and track out. They were worse than electrical problems.
You knew where the water came out, but
You never knew where it came in.
Right.
It could be there could be a leak at the rear window, top of the rear window, but it was coming in from the front window.
Yeah.
and
It would
traveling
show up on
along.
the floor, you didn't know whether it was coming from the back or the front.
But that you did pretty well with selling that.
Yeah,
car?
that was a hot car.
Yeah. And of course the Statesman used the same body.
Right.
As it.
And then those 54 Le Mans with the dual carburetors was great.
Yeah. Now driving that, did it feel significantly faster than the standard car?
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay, because I know most of your competitors were offering V8 engines
Right.
there, and that was sort of in response to
Right.
The customers seem to like it?
Yeah, that was a favorite car for traveling sales.
A big question I've always had, and you're the first person I've met who can answer this, were the dual carburetors, were they a problem to keep an adjustment?
No, they weren't really.
Oh, okay.
They were side draft YF carburetors. Fairly simple.
Because, in another life I owned British cars, and of course the dual carburetors on those I think were deliberately kept out of sync.
That was an easy car to work on.
Oh, okay. And then that stayed in production, well, the 55. I want to ask you your opinion on the 55. That's when they put the headlamps in the grill. How did the customers react to that? Frankly?
Some people liked it, but a lot of people didn't.
Yeah.
It was different.
Yeah. Oh, that was very different.
Especially in New England, people don't like too much change at once.
Yeah.
Kind of conservative.
Yeah. I know the first time I saw one, it stopped me in my tracks. I just thought, what is this all about?
Yeah.
But it's grown on me, and I really do like it now. But
I personally like the 57. The duals up and down in the fenders. I think
Yeah.
that is a beautiful front end.
Yeah.
The 8-grade grill.
Now, when the 55s and 56s were new, though, what was more popular, the V8 model or the 6 in the Ambassador? Do you recall?
It was the 6 cylinders. We had a tough job getting rid of those 8 cylinders.
Yeah.
The automatic transmission was the headache.
Yeah.
No problem. Back in the day.
I know I've heard some dealers are getting $1,000 incentives
Oh,
to
yeah.
sell the V8 cars because they were very expensive and problematic.
Yeah.
I wonder if that hurt Nash's reputation.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
Some of those transmissions were impossible to fix. Just had to replace the whole transmission.
Air conditioning? What did you think of that when it came out?
Oh, that was great.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, Nash had the best heating system right along, and then to have everything under the hood was really fantastic.
Were they a problem to work on? Because that was something...
No,
was
not
new.
really. It wasn't that complicated.
You must have had to go to a special
Yeah,
service
they had
school.
service schools.
Now, by that point, was Nash still flying or sending people out to Kenosha for the service schools? Or did
No, they were having them local.
Okay. Yeah, that must have been a lot easier, because it's a big expense for
Right.
a dealer to send somebody away.
Yeah.
Particularly small. So how were sales going in the 50s? Were you doing, you were doing, you said 50 cars the first year. What was it by 1954, 55?
Well, we were up to 500 or 600.
Wow. Oh, that was very good.
We were doing 50 cars a month.
Wow. Well, that's excellent, particularly for that period.
But the secret to our success was we were advertising in the Boston papers,
Mm-hmm.
bringing people out from the suburbs,
Yeah.
which worked pretty well. Because when we first started, the dealers had protective territories.
Okay, now that's a term I think I understand, but I've
If
never...
you sold a car in a different area other than what your franchise allowed, it was specified. You had to pay that other dealer a certain amount of money.
Wow. Oh, I've never heard of it like that.
That was very early as far as the 40s. But that didn't last long.
No, I could see, yeah.
Because really it was a violation of it.
Nowadays, the dealers are arguing, you probably heard the controversy with cars coming in from Canada.
Because you go up to Canada, you can buy a car for $1,000 less than that.
Yeah.
in the States. A lot of dealers are bringing them down.
Yeah. So, now, we mentioned the Metropolitan. That came out in March of 1954.
Right.
What'd you think of that?
I personally didn't like it. It was too small. It was very difficult to work on.
Yeah, well, it was all British parts.
Right. And to get anything around the engine was tough. It was, we weren't used to that type of car.
Yeah.
I think that made the difference. Although it had a lot of things that were similar to the Rambo, but the shifting mechanism and stuff like that, it was still
Yeah.
it's a lot
Oh,
different.
when you put them side by side, it looks like a 3/4 scale
Right.
54 Rambler style, but mechanically they are night and day.
Yeah, because the suspension and everything was different. So, make the American cars a little simpler. Fall of '56, they had the announcement show in New York to show the new '57 models. And Romney was there. And he gave one of the most famous speeches that I've ever heard. He had everybody mesmerized. And the final thing he said, "You can't fire salesmen with enthusiasm. Fire them." So everybody was really pumped up, and I think that was this turning point of the American Motors and their rise back into it.
Yeah. Well, for historical perspective, the company lost money in '54 and '55, but they had anticipated that, and that was pretty much figured into their numbers. But '56 was supposed to be a turnaround. They had, I don't know if you remember this GUI slogan, going up in '56.
Yeah.
And '56 was supposed to be the turnaround year, and it was a disaster. And they lost a ton of money. And I remember George Romney said, we can't have another year like 1956 in 1957 and survive. We cannot do it. And that's when he gave that speech and exhorted all the dealers to just go out and very simply sell one more car per dealer per month. Seemingly simple goal, but it was all that was needed to turn it around.
And that was the turning point.
Mm-hmm.
In '57, things started to look better. In '58, things were really rolling. In '60, it was a problem getting cars. You could sell all you could get.
Now, when the '56 Rambler came out, I heard that there were a lot of problems with
Well, that was
warranty problems.
That was the first year of the
Yeah, another new car.
hot top,
Yeah.
four-door hot top, on a pillar in the middle.
Yep.
And that was a big change because it was completely new body and completely new body style. We hadn't had before. So it took a while to get that straightened out. But they finally did it. That was the year of the three-tone cars.
Oh, yeah. Now,
That's a great color.
the '57 Nash, you said was one of your favorites. Now,
'57 Rebel.
yeah.
They made like 1,000 of these silver cars with walnuts. With a V8.
Yep.
That car.
327 Nash V8.
That car was perfect. It was so well made. It took a lot of time making those cars.
Now, I'm going to say something, I don't know if you knew this at the time, but the '57 Rebel was the fastest American sedan that year. It would have been the fastest car all out, but the Corvette, the fuel-injected Corvette beat it by about a tenth of a second. But among sedans...
But they were going to fuel inject some of those Rebels, too.
Yeah. We haven't been able to find one yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Now, the '57 Nash that year used the big 327 Nash V8, and it used the General Motors Hydromatic transmission. Was that a better car?
Yeah, that was a good car. And then they had the smaller V8, too. All that.
Yeah. Now, the quad headlights, from what I understand, were not legal in all states. Were they legal in Massachusetts?
They were legal in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Because I know they introduced the car throughout the country, just hoping nobody would say anything. And how did you do with selling the big '57 Nash?
They were slow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it seemed that the public was more interested in the smaller Ramblers than the big cars.
Yeah, well, that shows up in the sales number,
Right.
that's for sure.
And then in '58, when they made them all more or less similar, just stretched the ambassador a little bit longer in the front.
Now, during the '40s and the '50s, what was the name of the dealership?
It started off as Boch Nash.
Uh-huh.
In '54, we changed it to Boch Ragnar.
Wow, okay. That was foresight. And so that kept you right up through all the Rambler years, too.
Right.
Now, when the '58 came out, there was no more Nash. Was there a big reaction from your old Nash customers? Or?
No, I don't think so. I think they were prepared for it.
Here's a question, again, that I've never been able to get answered. Did your old Ambassador customers, did they continue buying the Ambassador with the new Rambler?
Yes, they did.
Ambassador?
Right.
Oh, okay.
They still thought the Ambassador was different than all the other cars in the line. And it was, you know, it was
Yeah.
a big car.
Yeah.
Had a lot of power.
Flush.
Good fancy interiors, yeah.
But your big seller must have been just a regular six-cylinder.
Six-cylinder, right.
Okay.
Then it's, I think, 60, when did they come up with the aluminum engine?
61, I believe.
61,
Yeah.
Those were headaches. Because that was a big change from no other manufacturer had an all-aluminum engine.
Yeah.
They had aluminum heads, but cast iron blocks. But this had an aluminum block and aluminum heads.
It's the amazing thing about that Rambler aluminum 6 is that it seemed like they either blew up in the first year or they lasted forever.
Right,
because
that's true.
I see them out there 40 years old and they're still running great and they never had a rebuild.
Yeah.
But when they were new, they weren't.
But Nash had a lot of new ideas that they weren't afraid to try.
When the Metropolitan 1500 came out with the bigger engine in 1956, did that seem any better to you?
Yeah, a
Still
little
just
bit, but it's still, people weren't ready for that.
Yeah,
I don't even know if they're ready today.
yeah.
All
That's a good
those
point.
manufacturers think they are, with BMW, the little car. Volkswagen has a small car in Europe. I mean, BMW has a small car. Mercedes has a small car. A Swatch car.
Now, how long did you stay with American Motors as a dealer?
Until '76.
Uh-huh. And you enjoyed it probably right up to about 1975, as I
Yeah.
recall. 74 was a nice year.
Yeah. Then they came out with the Pacer, which we thought was going to be the answer to our problems. But it was the wrong car at the wrong time.
Now, do you currently own a Nash?
I have a 48 Ambassador coupe.
Oh, okay. That's a lovely car.
Yeah.
It sounds though like maybe you should, while you're up here in Kenosha, maybe you should look around and see if you can find a 57 Rebel.
Yeah.
You know, kind of round out the collection. Well, I think that concludes our talk for the day. I want to thank you very much for agreeing to talk with us. And this tape, like all the others, will go into the Nash Heritage Preservation Records, and generations will enjoy it.
I hope so.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
A dream is a wish your heart made. When you see a star, a Nash is a star of car made. It outshines all others by far.
Now come with Nash into a new motoring age. See Nash for 55 with completely new trend-setting style and a new 208 horsepower Jetfire V8 engine. See the biggest room on the road with the widest front seats of any car. See